The winter wind cut through the city streets, sharp enough to sting bare skin. Pedestrians hurried by with collars raised and scarves pulled tight, eager to escape the cold. On the corner of Lexington and 8th, a young woman huddled against the side of a building, knees drawn to her chest, her thin coat no match for the biting air. A cardboard sign rested against her legs, hungry. Cold, please help. Most people passed without glancing at her. A few tossed coins, some gave quick pitying smiles, but none lingered. She kept her gaze down, ashamed of how far she had fallen. Her name was Lily Evans. Months ago she had been a college student with dreams of becoming a teacher. But dreams don't pay rent, and when her mother fell ill and bills piled up, one misfortune led to another. A lost job, eviction, and finally, the street. On this particular evening, fate had placed her in the path of a man who noticed everything others ignored. Adrian Hale, CEO of one of the largest investment firms in the country, stood across the street waiting for his car. Tall, sharply dressed in a tailored coat, he radiated authority. Most people avoided his gaze, intimidated by the aura of power he carried, but his eyes, sharp as they were, caught details others dismissed. He noticed Lily, thin, trembling, clutching her sign with dignity rather than desperation. Something about her struck him. Perhaps it was the way she didn't beg, didn't shout, didn't push forward like others sometimes did. She simply waited, as though holding on to a sliver of pride. When his car pulled up, sleek and black, Adrian didn't get in. Instead, he crossed the street, his bodyguard tensed, but Adrian waved him back. He crouched slightly in front of Lily, his shadow stretching long across the pavement. She looked up, startled. For a moment, their eyes locked, hers tired but still burning with a quiet strength, his curious, calculating. "You're cold," he said simply. She nodded faintly, unsure what else to say. Adrian reached into his wallet. From it, he pulled a sleek black credit card, the kind reserved for the ultra-wealthy. He held it out to her. "Take this." Lily blinked, confused. "What?" "Take it," he repeated. "Use it for whatever you need tonight. Food, shelter, warmth." Her hands trembled as she stared at the card. It didn't feel real. She had heard of black cards, unlimited credit, access to anything, the kind of power only the richest carried. But why was he offering it to her, a stranger on the street? Suspicion battled with hunger in her mind. Was this a trick? A cruel game? Her voice shook when she whispered, "Why me?" Adrian studied her closely. "Because I want to see what you'll do with it." The crowd nearby had begun to notice. Whispers spread, phones lifted to capture the scene, a billionaire handing his black card to a homeless girl. But Adrian didn't care. His gaze never left Lily's face, waiting. Slowly, she reached out and took the card. Her fingers brushed his glove as she did, and she swore she felt the weight of 1,000 unspoken promises in that small piece of plastic. "Go," Adrian said quietly. "Get what you need. I'll find you later." Lily hesitated, fear and gratitude twisting together. But she rose, legs weak beneath her, and walked toward the bright lights of the convenience store on the corner. Adrian watched her go, expression unreadable, then turned to his driver. "Follow her." At a distance. Inside the store, warmth enveloped Lily. She stood frozen in the aisle, the black card heavy in her pocket. The possibilities overwhelmed her. She could buy food, a hot drink, maybe even a blanket. But then another thought crept in. She could take advantage of this moment. Swipe the card for luxuries she hadn't touched in years. No one would know. No one except her. She walked slowly through the aisles, past rows of candy and expensive wine, until she stopped in front of the soup section. Her hands shook as she reached for 2 cans of chicken noodle. She added bread, a bottle of water, and a small pack of medicine for her mother's persistent cough. At the counter, the cashier raised an eyebrow when she handed over the black card. He swiped it, expecting trouble, but the screen flashed approved. "Nice card," he muttered, handing it back. Lily offered a faint smile, clutching the bag tightly as she left. Outside she didn't see the sleek car idling across the street, or the man inside watching her with keen eyes. Adrian had expected indulgence, alcohol, cigarettes, maybe electronics. Instead, he saw her leave with nothing but a small paper bag and walk briskly back toward the alley where she had been sitting. When she settled again against the wall, she opened the bag and began to eat quickly, quietly, savoring the warmth spreading through her chest. Then she pulled out the medicine and held it close, whispering softly, "This will help you, Mom." Adrian stepped out of the car once more. The crowd had thinned, but a few lingered, whispering in disbelief. He ignored them, walking slowly back to her. She looked up, startled to see him again. "You didn't run," he said. Her brow furrowed. "Run? You could have vanished with that card. Bought things, hidden away, disappeared. But you came back here. Why?" Lily swallowed hard. "Because it's not mine, and because, I just needed food. And medicine." Adrian studied her in silence, his expression unreadable. Finally, he said softly, "Most people in your position wouldn't have stopped at soup." She lowered her eyes. "I'm not most people." Something in her voice firm, steady despite everything, made his chest tighten. For years, Adrian had lived surrounded by wealth, by people who craved more and more. But here sat a girl with nothing, who had chosen only what she needed. He held out his hand. Come, her eyes widened. What? Where? Somewhere warmer than this. She hesitated, fear flickering in her eyes. But then she looked at the hand he offered, strong, steady, unwavering, and she realized it wasn't pity she saw there, but something different. Something like respect. Slowly, she placed her hand in his. The ride in the black car felt surreal. Lily sat stiffly in the leather seat, clutching the paper bag of soup and medicine like it was treasure. She had never been inside a car like this. The quiet hum of the engine, the faint scent of polished wood, the city blurring past the tinted windows. Across from her, Adrian Hale studied her in silence, his face unreadable, sharp features lit by passing streetlights. Finally, he spoke. What's your story, Lily? She froze. No one had asked her that in months. Not the police who shooed her from corners, not the strangers who tossed coins without looking, not even the shelter volunteers who were always too busy. She glanced at him, hesitant, then looked back at her hands. I had a life once, she whispered. I was in college, studying to be a teacher. My mom got sick, bills piled up, I tried to work, but I couldn't keep up. We lost the apartment. She's staying at a friend's, but it's not enough. I ended up here. Her voice cracked, shame pressing down like a weight. I didn't want to beg, but there's nothing left. Adrian leaned back, his jaw tightening. He had heard thousands of stories in boardrooms, pitches, excuses, pleas. But this wasn't a performance. It was raw truth, spoken by someone who had nothing to gain by telling it. Why didn't you take advantage of the card? He asked quietly. She met his eyes then, her gaze steady. Because I still have myself. I've lost almost everything else, but I can't lose that too. If I steal, if I let greed eat me, then what's left of me isn't worth saving. Her words struck him harder than any deal ever had. He thought of the people in his world. Executives, politicians, so-called allies, most of them armed with wealth yet empty of principle. And here was a girl in rags who clung to integrity as if it were her last possession. The car stopped in front of an upscale hotel, its grand entrance glowing with golden light. Lily's eyes widened. Why are we here? Adrian stepped out, then offered his hand. Because you're not spending another night on the street. She shook her head quickly, panic flashing. No, I can't. People will stare. I don't belong here. But Adrian's voice was calm, firm. You belong where you're treated like a human being. That starts tonight. Inside, the staff straightened at the sight of him. Whispers rippled, but no one dared question when he led Lily to the front desk. She's with me, he said simply, handing over the black card. Within minutes, a suite was prepared. When the door opened to reveal a room larger than any place she'd ever lived, Lily's knees nearly buckled. Soft carpets, warm lighting, a bed dressed in white linen. It felt like stepping into another world. She stood frozen in the doorway, afraid to touch anything. Adrian set her bag on the table. Eat, shower, rest. Tomorrow we'll talk. Her throat tightened. Why are you doing this for me? He paused, looking at her with an intensity that pinned her in place. Because I've spent years surrounded by people who have everything but character. And tonight, I met someone who has nothing but character. That's worth more than all the wealth in the world. For the first time in months, Lily allowed herself to cry. Not out of despair, but out of the strange, fragile hope blooming inside her. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the wide windows. Lily woke in clean sheets, warmth wrapped around her like a forgotten dream. She almost thought it was all a fantasy until she saw the clothes laid out for her. Simple, comfortable, new. She dressed, her reflection in the mirror startling her. She didn't look like a homeless girl. She looked like someone who might have a future again. Adrian was waiting in the lounge sipping coffee, eyes sharp even in the calm. He gestured for her to sit. I tested you last night, he said plainly. I handed you power and I watched what you did with it. You chose integrity over indulgence. That tells me everything I need to know. Lily's hands tightened on her lap. It wasn't a test for me, it was survival. A faint smile tugged at his lips. Sometimes those are the same thing. He leaned forward. I want to offer you a chance. Not charity. A job, stability. A way to stand again. Her eyes widened. A job. Doing what? Anything you're willing to start with. My company runs programs, schools, outreach. You want to teach, we'll get you there. But first you need ground under your feet. Lily's breath caught. For so long she had been invisible, discarded. Now here sat a man with the power to change everything, not offering pity, but opportunity. Tears welled in her eyes. Why me? Adrian's gaze softened. Because you reminded me of something I forgot. That wealth without humanity is nothing. And because when the world walked past you, you still chose honesty. That makes you rare. Lily pressed a hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. She thought of her mother, Of the nights spent shivering, of the hopelessness that had nearly consumed her. And now, for the first time, she saw a path forward. Weeks later, whispers spread through the city. People talked about the homeless girl spotted beside the billionaire, no longer shivering on a corner but walking with quiet dignity. Some called it charity, others a scandal. Adrian ignored them all. He knew the truth, this wasn't about saving her, it was about saving himself from a world that had forgotten the value of character. For Lily, life did not transform overnight, there were still challenges, doubts, stares. But each morning she rose with purpose, each night she slept in warmth. And slowly, she began to dream again. One evening as she walked past the same corner where she had once sat, she paused. The cardboard sign was gone, replaced by a memory. She whispered softly, "Thank you," not just to Adrian but to herself, for holding on when everything tried to strip her down. And somewhere nearby, in a sleek car waiting at the curb, Adrian watched with a small smile. His test had revealed more than he expected, it had revealed hope.